ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between. This is DebateSensei NPDA edition, where we talk about things relevant to competitive parliamentary debate. And one of the things that we like to do is talk to the people who are involved in the activity. And so in this episode, we have Kyle Pryor-Landman. He is a graduate student at San Diego State University, where he's also the director of debate for them through that particular program. Thank you very much, Kyle, for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jared. I appreciate it.
Excellent. All right. Well, a good place to start is at the beginning. Do you remember first learning about the activity of debate? When and where was that?
Yeah. So funny story. I was actually at a party and I was talking to this girl and she's like, yeah, I'm on the debate team. And I was like, there's a debate team at San Diego State? And she's like, yeah, like I'm competing. We travel all across the country and get to do all these fun things. And I was like, that sounds cool. Like, I did mock trial in high school and I was looking for something to do. And I was like, cool, that sounds great. So showed up and did the thing. I was 19. So, been in it for a while at this point.
So you started the actual competitive debate in college. And that's also me. I started in college about the same age, but obviously 20 years earlier. And surprisingly, it wasn't because of a girl I met at a party, but I did get coaxed into my public speaking class by not one girl, but a couple of girls. And that was where the debate coach was, and he's the one who recruited me. So it's funny how there's some parallels between that. How is mock trial? Well, first off, let's talk about the differences between mock trial and competitive debate, and then we'll go into some similarities.
Yeah, I mean, mock trial, is markedly different, right? I would say mock trial is more of a speech event than a debate event, right? Because you take on a character, right? You're a lawyer, you're a defendant, right? You're a police officer, right? You're a expert witness, right? And so in that way, right, you have certain things that are like kind of like cut and blocked out, like very similar to almost like a DI.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so, you work, like I worked with an actual attorney, for a former prosecutor from the county I'm from, and a bankruptcy attorney. And they, helped us put together what sounded like legal arguments, to a 14, 15-year-old, right? And, you get these like big, long case briefs. They were maybe 100 pages long of constitutional law, interview transcripts, right? Evidence, all that stuff that you would have to, rifle through and then create your cases and then go present them in front of an actual judge, right? Like a, elected judge from the Superior Court, right? And, so I was like, oh, well, if competitive debate is anything like that, I'm going to knock it out of the park. Very quickly realized it's nothing like that at all. You have all year, right? It's very similar to maybe like policy or LD, right? Where you have one case and you work on it the entire year. Where partly it's like, no, you get 30 minutes tops to figure this out. Good luck. Right. And so it was a shock for me, right? I'm used to, putting on this character and pretending to be a lawyer, right? And then it's like, actually, no, you are expected to talk at 300 words a minute and talk and use all this jargon, right? Which it was a shock, but I think it's completely different. I don't even know how to draw parallels, right? There's not a whole lot of debating going on, right? There is some degree in mock trial, right? Like you make arguments that are based on legal evidence, right? So you kind of have that claim data warrant, right?
Right.
But it's markedly different, right? It's about laws and actual execution and constitutional interpretations versus like, what the USFG is doing, right?
So you said that they get actual elected judge. That's the person actually judging your mock trial is somebody who's working. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. An actual judge who sits on the bench at the Superior Court. So, and then if you go to like the state, right, we made it to the state every year. competition. And so we had one in Riverside County and one in Orange County. And I mean, these were Superior Court elected judges that would take time out of their day to come listen to a bunch of, high schoolers talk about legal issues, right?
Wow, that's very cool. Like, because at debate tournaments, you're getting at least six different judges, and from various backgrounds, none of which are from elected office, or at least I've never had someone from elected office.
Not to my knowledge either.
Well, let's try to draw some parallels there. Like you were able to, I mean, you understood the structure of an argument. That's one parallel. What are some other carryovers that you think mock trial actually helped prepare you for debate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like the pressure of actually being right in front of a judge, like an actual elected official, right? Somebody who has the power to like, ostensibly lock people away for life, right?
Yeah.
And not that like the stakes are that high, but there's still that level of like pressure, right? That level of expectation of performance, right? That debating requires, right? There's a certain sort of appearance and sort of candor, right? That like debaters are expected to have. And in that way, right, when you're in a courtroom pretending to be a lawyer, right, lawyers are expected to act a certain way. You're not supposed to approach the bench, right? You need to say the right things in the right way in order for these arguments to be recognized, right, by the court. And I think that the major parallels, right, come in both the back and forth, right? And also there's a cross-examination, right?
Okay.
That comes from, right, legal, right? The history of that in the, jurisprudence, right, of legal system, right? And so the great thing about cross-examination, right, in mock trial, right, is it's very much more in-depth than it usually ends up being in parliamentary debate, right? You really get to like dive deep into these witnesses' characters and why they believe the things they do and why they said and the inconsistencies, right? That really prepares you to kind of tear apart, the neg, right? When you're like, well, why are you advocating for, communism, right? You don't even know what that means, right? Can you explain to me how Marxist-Leninism, Maoism operates, right? Sometimes people just don't have the answer, right? And that helps you find those inconsistencies in people's cases that, I think you can draw a lot from, right? I always thought cross-examination was the most fun part of a debate, right?
Absolutely. And when I was doing Parley Debate, it was just points of information. They just started experimenting with cross-examination times at like 1 or 2 tournaments in my senior year. And I absolutely loved it. It was like, it was so great to actually ask follow-up questions, rather than the one and done, and they just get to kind of like ignore it or something like that.
Right. I'll take it at the end.
Yeah. I know. Was parliamentary debate the only type offered at San Diego State, or did you have a choice and you picked it?
So, sort of, kind of, not really. Okay. We have kind of dabbled with IPDA a little bit. I have some pretty strong opinions on IPDA that I won't get into yet, maybe a little bit later. But I just kind of came in and was like, I don't know what any of this is, and put me where you think I should go.
Okay.
And so, Ashley was like, well, you want to do debate? We have these lovely debate coaches that will teach you how to do this. And my first year I started in 2019, like the end of 2019, going right into early 2020. And so,
man,
so I did Spring Champs. The PSCFA Spring Champs was my first tournament at Palomar. And I went in with a brand new partner. I've been working with him for maybe like a month and a half. Spring Champs and novice. And we go in, the resolution is something about North Korea. We prep out the entire AF. We're so happy we get in there. The other people get in, they go, you're the neg, right? And we look at the postings, and we were the neg. So we prepped the whole wrong side of the case, right? And we're sitting there like, what do we do, right? Like, I have no idea what's going on. We were getting prepped by a different school because none of our coaches could make it, right? It was a veritable disaster, right? And I'm like, this activity is so bad, right? I don't want to do this at all, right? I'm making a fool of myself. I'm turning all my yeses to nos, and I'm like, North Korea is great. you know, and I'm like, okay, this feels uncomfortable.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I barely know what uniqueness is, right? Like it was definitely like a huge learning curve, right? And that very first novice round at Spring Champs, getting demolished. We went 0-4 and then drove home really sad.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Those are rough. Yeah. Man, like okay, so I remember like the transition from novice, not so much from novice to junior, but from junior to open. I had a rough spot where it was like 3 tournaments missing on a 3-3, just an even record. And so those oh my god, those were so rough. It was so demoralizing. It was tough to keep going. Yeah, it was. That story about prepping the wrong side happens way more than people think, though. Yeah. It happens way often. Like, I mean, at least once a year, I see some team fresh, you know, out of the classroom doing exactly that. So I wouldn't feel bad about that. How fast did you move up? Like, when did you get promoted to like junior and then open?
So that's actually the funny story of it all, right? So I did 1 tournament in novice, went 0-4, right? And then COVID happened, right? Like maybe not even a month after Spring Champs, you know, we get this email from SDSU and they're like, you need to move out of your on-campus apartment by tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Oh man.
Good luck, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I packed all my stuff into my little Toyota Corolla and drove all the way back to NorCal that night that we got that text message. And I stayed around in the debate class, right? Just kind of like, you know, there's no more tournaments, right? We were supposed to host Pi Kappa Delta, and then that got thrown out the window, right? So there's no more tournaments. We're not doing anything else. So I'm just kind of like floating through the debate class. And then a new person joins from DVC, and Matt Hitomi,
good team.
Yeah, great team. They, you know how to breed champions right over there.
Right.
And he comes in and there's nobody else left on the team who really wants to do open debate anymore. And so Ashley keeps me after the Zoom class and is like, hey, so you're an open now. And I was like, what? No, I don't want to be an open. Like I've done 1 tournament, did horribly. I don't want to be an open at all. And she's like, I think you should just do it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I guess, right? Like this sounds like a horrible idea, but like, sure, I'll go into open for the next season, right? So summer happens, right? Nothing happens. And then we start the next year, right? We go to the warm up, you know, do all those things, we break at the warm up.
Okay.
Right. You know, Matt is constantly working with me. We have a new batch of coaches. So we have Max Grosnick from I don't remember where he went to undergrad. And McKay Parsons from Lewis Clark, who I'm still really great friends with. Love them to death. But they were, you know, essentially like, you know, what do you guys want to get out of this season, right? And that's like, I want to win a national championship. And I'm like, I don't even know what a national championship is. Right? Like, I didn't know there were debate nationals. I didn't know how deep debate ran, right? I didn't know what the ins and outs of it were, right? I'm still learning what a counter plan is at this point, right? What the hell's going on? And so, I mean, we just, you know, sitting at home with nothing to do, unemployed during COVID, right? I am full bore into debate, right? Matt and I spend hours and hours and hours nightly after practices, because our practices are from 7 to 9. And then Matt and I would stay on from 9 until sometimes 1 in the morning, right? Like watching rounds, doing drills, going over how to write an advantage, right? Stuff that is like, you know, that basic is how do you write an advantage? How do you write a disad? What is a counter plan? What is a critique, right? How do you run a theory show, right? And going so in depth and further and further and further in depth, right? Because I mean, I'm sitting at home, unemployed during COVID, right? And you know, so then the Golden Gate opener happens, GGO online, and we won.
Oh
Right?
wow!
Yeah, we won the tournament. I think this was like my third tournament ever, and we won the tournament. And it was a huge deal, right? Where the first tournament SDSU's won in 25 years or something.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, it was like, okay, right? Maybe we do have what it takes, right? There's the old SDSU dark horse joke that was going around the community at the time. And like I was still very much a backpack at this point, right? Like I go back and I watch those old debate rounds and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
How was I winning those rounds, right?
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. So like you had a lot of support from your partner in order to get up to speed. Now that was your would that be your first year, would you say? I mean, like the one or the one spring champs you did, you're not really counting that as one full season, or?
Yeah, I mean, not really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there weren't very many competitions left after, every COVID shook everything up, right?
Right.
And so there just wasn't like a whole lot for me to do, right? Because it's like, okay, well, I guess I could go to this tournament, but like, right? Like I'm not winning anything, right? This is lame. Like I'm just here just to,
right,
do something with my time. And now that's not in person, like why am I here, right? I was just very defeatist, right? Right after COVID happened. So like, what is the point of any of this? Why am I still in college, right? Zoom University was something else.
Well, yeah, way back in the day, San Diego did have some teams, but it was always UC San Diego. I don't think I remember State being there. Man, I don't recall. I'll be honest with you. They might have, and it was just been so long ago. So that was like Danny Cantrell and his was his partner. I think it was Travis Kennedy or something like that, and they were just big names. He's still big in the circuit. He made forensics tournament and everything like that. And so that's my only sort of like touchstone with San Diego. But I'm glad to see San Diego State, like really establishing itself. Did you and Matt stick together for the entire time?
The whole time.
3 years.
Yeah. So we got along like incredibly well, right? Like I still talk to Matt all the time. I mean, not as much as I used to, right? He's off in law school. I'm in grad school, right? We're both very busy.
Yes.
And he lives up in Irvine, so it's not the most convenient to get from San Diego to Irvine, right?
Right. I mean, probably a couple hours there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least.
But we stayed together through the whole thing. As soon as Ashley was like, "You two are partners. You're an open. Figure it out." Until our last NPDA, we were the same partnership.
Okay, well, I mean that is unusual and a privilege. Like I think that's absolutely great. I was able to have one partner for 2 years, and I thought that was an absolute privilege to get to know somebody that well. Let's take a look at your first year together. Now, you said that your first year you won the Golden Gate opener. Are there some other memorable moments from that first season?
One of the most memorable things for me was learning about the NPTE.
Okay.
And all of a sudden we're on the NPT ranks, right?
Ah, yes.
Right. And we're like, I think we're the first SDSU team to make it to the NPTE ever.
Yeah.
And so we get there, we like look at our rank, right? We're like 50 something, right? And we're like, okay, well, that kind of whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then slowly I think we won fall champs that year also.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden now we're like 20, right? And then slowly throughout the rest of the year, and then we won one of the swings a mile high.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we're 11th, now we're 10th, now we're 9th, right? And we're like slowly climbing up that rank. And it was like it was so cool to like log on after every single tournament after they updated the NPTE rankings, and we'd look there and slowly see the amount of points that we have slowly climb up.
Right.
And it was just amazing, right, to see that. I think we ended up like I can't even remember at this point, maybe like 10th at the, like once it was all said and done.
Right.
But the School of Communication, the, you know, department that houses the forensics team, like did like a op-ed on Matt and I and our coaches and all that stuff, right? Because it's like the first time SDSU's ever made a name for itself in debate at all.
Nice.
And I mean, it was just so cool to see, right? Like just this, you know, we come from a school that just historically doesn't have debate prowess, right? We're not Rice, we're not Berkeley, right? We're not, you know, we just don't have the clout, right? And so to see, you know, an SDSU team, you know, with some great coaches, right? We had Max and McKay, we had Ficker from Texas Tech, and we had Cody. God, I feel so bad, I can't remember his last name. Also from Texas. They would help us in prep, right? We had like this crazy prep room and we were doing all these things, right? And learning all this stuff, right? And it's like, you know, just slowly winning these tournaments and breaking every single time, right? And then we didn't break at spring champs, right?
Oh,
out of nowhere, right? Did not break at spring champs.
That's always weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, what is going on? Right? Because we're learning all of this stuff, right? We're learning about critiques and we're learning about rejecting and framework and theory, right? And then we're trying all these things at spring champs and then we don't break.
Oh, wow.
And we're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How can we win a swing of Mile High and not break at spring champs? And it was like, that was maybe like my most defeatist moment in debate. I called my coach, Max Grosnick, and I was like, dude, I'm not doing this anymore.
Oh, man.
And I was like, I don't like this, right? This isn't fun. This isn't entertaining to me anymore, right? Like, I don't understand why we're doing all this stuff if it's not letting us win. Right? And he's like, just stick it out, dude.
Yeah.
Right? Like just do it, right? You have what it takes, right? You're obviously like talented debaters, right? Don't let one tournament not breaking like determine your career.
Right. And
you know, I called both my parents and I was like, I'm done with debate. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. Like, this is not fun. And, you know, then I stuck with it, right? Somehow, some way, something clicked in my brain and I was like, all right, whatever. I'll keep doing it. We'll see what happens. And then we made it to NPDA. I think we were quarterfinalists at NPDA.
Quarterfinals. There you go. This is your first year together. Quarterfinals, not bad at all.
Yeah, bad. Quarterfinals at NPDA. I think we were octo finalists, 10th place at NPTE.
Okay. Hey, but still getting out on NPTE. Every round's a final round at NPTE. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like that's amazing. All right. So what now you make a name for yourself in the first year. People know Kyle and Matt.
Yeah.
What's year 2 like then?
Yeah, so I mean, we were coming off like a pretty big high, right?
Yeah.
Berkeley's Ryan Rashid and Amanda Miskell shouted us out at their in their like final round, like their thank yous. They shouted us out, and so did Oregon at NPTE, right? They're both
nice.
To SDSU team, like we love debating you guys, right? Like whatever, right? And so we're like, okay, cool. Like we have name recognition. What are we gonna do? And so we get Max graduates. We have McKay, and now we have Adasia Powell, 20 national champion as our coach, right? So we are stoked, right? We're like, this is going to be an amazing year. We're gonna mix things up, right? We're gonna try different strategies. We're gonna try to break the mold a little bit, right? We were pretty much only a hedge and cap team, hegemony, right? So we would hedge on the AF and cap on the neg and almost nothing else, right? And it worked great for us, right? But we're like, this is boring, right? We want to do something different. And that's where Adasia came in and was like, you all want to do different, let's do different, right? So Adasia, I was originally the PM and MO.
Yeah.
And Adasia's like, no, you are now the MG and the LO.
Okay.
and Matt became the
PM.
PM.
Yeah.
And that was different for us, right? Because we spent a whole year, right, learning how to do these positions, right? Very different, right, mindsets, right?
Very much so. Very much so.
And so it was definitely an adjustment. And we weren't doing as well as we were initially, right? Because we had to relearn all those positions.
The adjustment.
But then once we got into sitting there and doing drills and really learning these new Ks and really learning how to, kind of sort of be topical adjacent.
Yes.
Then it was like, okay, cool. Like this makes a lot more sense for us.
Yes.
Right. Because, I think Adasia saw like right through it. Right. And was like, no, Matt's much better at like the technical big picture, right? Like put all the things.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
That's usually the separation.
Yeah. And Kyle, like you're better at like the, getting a lot of things out really quickly. Right. Yeah. And not worrying about the minutia, right? Just make your arguments. And I was like, okay, cool. Like that I can do. So then we just worked on getting really fast and being more efficient, and that was like the big thing for us, right? Was speed and efficiency. So I mean, I just remember sitting in my room, annoying my roommates doing speed drills, and then waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do a tournament on the East or, in the Midwest online. Right. So I'm up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Cup of coffee in hand, screaming at my computer, waking up all my roommates in my house. Right. But, we started off like not doing so hot, right? Working out those growing pains. And like our NPTE ranking that year, like wasn't nearly as high as it was.
Okay. Really?
Just because like we weren't doing great at the PSCFA tournaments.
Okay.
Which are the, majority of the tournaments that we were going to.
Right.
But I still think we won a tournament.
Okay.
We were still doing well. But we were trying a lot of new things and trying to see what stuck and using these tournaments as more of a, what do we like to do? Not let's win this, right? All in preparations for trying to win a natty, right? That was our goal, right? We're not worried about winning these tournaments anymore. We're worried about winning the tournament, right? The light at the end of the tunnel, right, was NPDE and NPDA, right? But it was touch and go for a second. Like we didn't think we were going to get a bid to NPDE.
Oh wow!
Just because like we were not winning tournaments like we used to,
right?
But we were like much more technically better,
right,
than we were, right? Like just getting all of that technical stuff out of the way, right? Learning the technical stuff in order to just crush it at the nationals, right? That was the goal, right?
So how did that go? Like you obviously you did get a bid, right?
We got a bid.
Yeah. And so how did these two national tournaments go?
So this was before, because now NPTE is after NPDA.
Yeah.
NPTE used to be before NPDA.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But sure, right? Whatever. I mean, that's how it was, right? And it was a rough year for Parley, right? Like a lot of the big names left. Zach Schneider passed away, right? It was a very upsetting year for Parley, right? As a organization, right? As a collective.
Absolutely.
Because there was a lot of internal drama on a lot of teams, right? A lot of things like started to go wrong, right? So we're like, it was different, right? It was very much not the same as it was in 2021. A lot of the meta shifted a lot, right? The types of arguments people started, like, I think 2022 was the rise of MLM as the K, du jour. Marxism, Maoism.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
And that was kind of like the K to be, right? At that point. And, we sat there at NPTE and, we ended up getting 5th place this time. Or
nice.
No. Yeah.
Around
we got 5th place NPTE. which was insane for us, right? I mean, we were
Nice.
just like so happy.
Good.
We got, that was the best we've done ever, right? We're like, okay, well, if we can do this, right, and we beat the teams that we needed to beat, except for Oregon, who we never beat once.
That's too bad.
The only team that has won a national championship that we never beat was Oregon GL. And they love to remind me of it. But yeah, we dropped out to Oregon, and it was fine, right?
Good.
We're like, okay, well, we'll reconvene, we'll recollect, we'll see what we're doing, and we'll go to NPDA. And then we went 6-2 at NPDA and got third.
Oh, wow. Third place. Yeah. Nice.
And we ended our career on a K that we wrote during the lunch break at NPDA. Okay. And it was an Among Us K.
Wait, your opponents are sus or something like that?
Yeah, so it was a Deleuze and Guattari K that we just reskinned with Among Us. And so it was all about like unstable identities, right? And trying to locate people where they actually are. And we said that the AF like role playing as Iran was sus. That they're the imposter because they're like pretending to be Iran, and like we can't like locate them in order to be like, this is like who we need to like determine as the enemy, right? It was some interesting D&D, postmodernist whatever.
Okay. And that was your second year, yeah?
Yeah, that was it. And then we're done. That was it.
Okay.
Graduated.
Okay. And so not bad. So semifinalist at the NPTE. And that was just in 22, right? And so and now you've been at San Diego State, been heading up the coaching staff there. I know there's been, it's never a stable group of people unless you're really, really lucky. And so I guess, there's a little bit. How do you like the role? How was the transition to coaching? How did that work for you?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I was not a grad student last year when I started coaching. So I was doing SEO for law firms, and I was like, I need something to do with my life. Like, I can't just have this job and then come home. And so I reached out to Ashley and I was like, hey, need another debate coach? Like, I'm happy to come back and like, fill in wherever. Yeah, sure. Like, come on in, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
And then, a couple things fell apart, and I ended up being the assistant director of debate. And so it was me and Anasia, and it was a big change.
Okay.
It was definitely like, I've never coached anything before.
Okay.
All I have in my brain is debate knowledge, right? And I was also on the team with a lot of the people that were now debating, right? So switching that role from like a peer to a mentor was weird, right? Tough to navigate, right? Tough to figure out where I belonged in like the team structure, right? Because on one hand, right, it's like, oh yeah, this is like the dude on my team, Kyle, and then now actually no, this is my coach, Kyle, right? Certain expectations and certain, and obviously, like SDSU's rules about professional conduct, right? And all that. And not that like those things were in question, but it's different being a peer and different being a coach.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Again, like the performative thing, right? There's a performative aspect to being a coach, right? And judging was also very different.
Okay.
And I think that judging, right, like made me think about debate way differently.
Yes.
I've written and rewritten my paradigm like maybe 10 or 15 times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just because people do things that I realize that like I really don't like. Things that like actually make me really angry. And I realize like there's certain arguments that I'm more partial to than others, right? And I think that you don't learn that until you're out of it. Right. And learning that until you are judging it, and then really realize what your preferences are and not what your coach tells you your preferences should be.
Right. Yeah. Just the perspective that you get on changing those roles. And, now it's, man, I can't even remember thinking back as a competitor how I saw things, but sometimes I cringe. I'm like, oh man, did I say that? Did I think that? Did I, oh God.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, why did I make that decision, right? Like I'm watching these rounds back, like, why did I say that?
Yeah. Because even thinking back to some of the old strategies, because like the strategies that we were going for way back in the day, now people talk about it as like, oh my God, that's way old school. Like we would be doing like borders critiques and things along those lines, or like gift critiques, and those seem to be like new and difficult to handle for people. But now it's like old hat, like
Right.
you're going with that old thing. Oh man. Well, hey, it was a pleasure getting to know you, and I'm looking forward to talking about some other things. Maybe we can brainstorm about some other episodes in the future. But I think just getting to know people's stories about how they went through it, especially people who are just getting started in college. I didn't debate in high school. You even had more experience than me, and I think like our mutual stories kind of show that you don't need to have 4 years of experience before you start in order to pick up an activity like this.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, you can do it at any stage, right? Last year we had a senior join the team who was, semifinalist.
Yeah.
NPDA, right? You don't have to be doing it in high school in order to be successful in college, right? You just got to want it.
All right. Well, Kyle, it was a pleasure talking with you. I know we're going to do it in the future. All right.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jared.
Bye.
Bye.